What is up, everybody? Shwazy here, and in today's impromptu video, I wanted to discuss Ford's latest announcement regarding the cancellation of their planned three-row all-electric crossover. So I wanted to provide my unbiased opinion because being an owner of an electric vehicle and a high-performance internal combustion engine vehicle, I think I could provide a pretty good perspective as compared to maybe the majority of people out there that either own one or the other. Now, the announcement, if you didn't hear, was that Ford has canceled plans for their all-electric three-row crossover that was supposed to come out in 2027. It was initially planned for 2026, and then back in the spring, they delayed it to 2027, and now they're officially canceling it. That was kind of the main announcement. They also said that the replacement of the F-150 Lightning, or the next generation, has been pushed back from 2025 to 2027. They do still plan to make an all-electric delivery van in 2026, and then they still have plans for a more affordable mid-size pickup truck in 2027. So they're not canceling all EV plans, simply canceling the three-row crossover and delaying some of the production of their F-150 Lightning. Now, with this announcement, they said they're going to have a $400 million asset write-down and then potentially up to $1.5 billion in losses associated with this project. So they're going to be taking a hit because of it. The other thing they announced was, as a percentage of their total capital expenditures, which is essentially fixed asset purchases, right? Think heavy equipment, machinery, etc. The percentage that are dedicated to EVs only is going down from 40% as it is now down to 30%. Now, when you first hear this news, the immediate knee-jerk reaction is, the world is coming apart for EVs, right? Nobody's buying these cars. They're trash. The market is collapsing, yada, yada, yada. I mean, you could take a look at the comment section, and I'm sure you'll see all of the information. I want to provide a little bit of a different perspective because I don't think it's entirely because of the EV market. I think that's definitely a portion of it, but I think there's a much bigger story going on here, and that's what I want to address in today's video. Now, to address the elephant in the room regarding the EV market, it's really not collapsing. As much as a lot of people in the media like to show it in the headlines that nobody's buying EVs, that's simply not true. If you actually look at the data, the growth of EV sales in the first half of the year as compared to last year is up about 7%. Now, the pace of that growth is definitely decelerating. So it's going a little bit slower because if you look at the year prior to that, to last year, it was up like 43% or something like that. So it's definitely slowing down. And obviously, if it continues that trajectory, it's going to start declining. But as of today, EV sales are growing, whereas actually internal combustion engine cars are actually going down year over year. So the sales of ICE vehicles are going down. And honestly, you would expect that to happen with any new technology. Of course, when something new comes to the market, the year over year growth is going to be exponential. When there's one car out there, if next year there's two, you're already 100% growth year over year, right? So as the amount of electric vehicles grows, there's going to be a slower pace of growth, and that's normal. That's normal in any economy, regardless of what product you're looking at. Your sales growth can't be double digits every single year. It's gonna come crashing down either at one point, or it's going to stabilize at kind of a 1, 2, 3% run rate year over year, maybe even slight declines year over year. So that's the one thing I want to address about EVs that I think a lot of people are just misunderstanding. That being said, there definitely are incentives on EVs to make them move off of dealer lots, right? I mean, I got a crazy good incentive on this Rivian because they were trying to move inventory. And we'll talk about a little bit more on that later on in this video because I think Ford is understanding this too. Now, the two reasons why I think Ford is stepping away from an all-electric crossover is because of, one, competition. Now, they said that the three-row crossover they were planning to introduce was planned for 2026, 2027. We're right now sitting in 2024, and there's already a pretty okay selection of three-row crossovers. I mean, the Kia EV9 comes to mind, obviously the Rivian R1S. There's some more luxurious competitors like the Mercedes EQS. There's also two options from Tesla, the Model Y and the Model X. And within the next year or two, there's going to be plenty more of three-row crossovers coming to the market. I mean, Volvo is planning one as well. I know Kia and Hyundai have other plans for electric three-row crossovers also. And the fact is, there's over 100 all-electric models coming within the next probably decade or so, of which a lot of those are 2 or 3 row crossovers. And so I think Ford is realizing that if they come out with a 3-row electric Explorer, for example, in 2027, they're probably going to be a little bit late to the game. I mean, one of the big reasons why Ford is the #2 electric vehicle seller in the United States, second to Tesla, is because they came out with the F-150 Lightning and the Mustang Mach-E pretty early on. I mean, the F-150 Lightning was essentially the first electric pickup truck after the Rivian, but the Rivian is more of a midsize. It was really the first full-size electric pickup truck, and the Mustang Mach-E was really the first viable competitor to the Model Y when it came out in 2020 or 2021. So they had first mover advantage, and of course they were able to capitalize on that. Whereas the three-row Explorer, they're probably going to be late to the game and not really be able to offer much more in terms of features and amenities at the price point they're probably going to have to be charging. And that brings me to my second point, which I think the bigger reason why Ford is stepping away from this three-row crossover is profitability. In fact, I would argue that profitability is a bigger player here than consumer demand for electric vehicles. So Ford has reported through the 6 months of 2024, they had about a $2.5 billion loss associated with the electric vehicle segment. Now, this is normal. Any startup, regardless of what industry they're in, you're going to have losses. Now, some companies have losses perpetually, and they're funded by, investors thinking about a future goal that this company is going to reach, and then they're going to be profitable one day. But other companies, especially more traditional ones like Ford, like Home Depot, right? Companies that are more staples that have existed for dozens and dozens of years, the market isn't as accepting for perpetual losses as they are with tech companies and startups. And so, to a certain extent, Ford has to start showing some sort of profitability. In fact, according to the CFO, they have a goal that within the first 12 months of a new product, a new vehicle, they're supposed to be profitable. And that is very hard to do with EVs. In fact, I think Ford is facing a reality check that EVs are going to be more expensive for a little bit longer. And I think this kind of leads into why growth of EVs has started to kind of plateau. That has to do with the price of electric vehicles. I mean, according to Cox Automotive, I have the information here, the average cost of an EV is about $57,000 versus for a gas or a hybrid, it's about $48,000. So the difference is about $9,000 between the two. And in today's economy where there's inflation, there's high interest rates, some people are getting hit with layoffs, people are being much more price conscious than just a couple years ago when people were overpaying for cars, right? And that's when the electric vehicles like the F-150 Lightning were going for a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 markup. It's a little bit of a different market now. And unfortunately, electric vehicles still have that high price tag. Now, this isn't just because manufacturers, including Tesla, Rivian, want to just price gouge customers. No, it has to do with the fact that batteries are incredibly expensive. And within the next year or two, that's probably not going to change. In fact, there's reports out there, according to NPR, that the cost of a battery is about 40 to 45% of the cost of a vehicle. And that's just your average size battery. If you're talking these large batteries for three-row crossovers, you're definitely going to have probably a little bit of a bigger cost. And so in order to be profitable on a three-row crossover, they're going to have to charge $80,000, $90,000, $100,000. I mean, just take a look at the Silverado EV, which is starting around $70,000, $75,000 for a work truck. And so I think Ford is realizing that they're not going to be able to be profitable within 12 months if they create an EV crossover that's $80,000. Secondly, very few people are probably going to buy this EV crossover that's $80,000 because people are much more price conscious. I think it's more of a macroeconomic issue than it is an EV demand issue. And at the same time, people aren't buying EVs because they are so expensive. It's kind of like a chicken and the egg scenario. You need to have affordable EVs for people to buy them, but you also need a large amount of people to buy them to get the economies of scale to make affordable EVs. So it's like, which one has to come first? And a lot of these legacy manufacturers have been eating the costs for too long at this point, and they're starting to need to show some more profitability. And the best way to do that is to transition back to gas and hybrid vehicles until the point that battery manufacturing becomes a little bit less expensive. And that's going to happen. That happens with every new technology. Solar panels back in the day were like tens and $20,000, $30,000, and now you can get them much more affordable. Same with, flat screen TVs. Like, technology tends to become more affordable as more people adopt it, but it's going to take some time. And I think right now is just a bad part in the market where people are not really wanting to spend extra on an EV when they really just want to get the lowest monthly payment and just get by. Now, I think this is all going to change within probably probably the next 4 to 5 years. For example, Ford has a Skunk Works team, which is a team based in California that's almost disassociated with Ford, where they're working on the next generation of electric vehicles that are going to be more affordable. They're focusing on affordability, and there's been no plans about canning that team or getting rid of it or anything like that. They're full steam ahead on this Skunk Works team that's developing the next generation of affordable EVs. And I think that's where Ford and a lot of other manufacturers are realizing is they need to come in with an affordable electric vehicle that also is profitable for them, that will of course lead to the more expensive and upscale vehicles that will be more profitable. But to have that type of adoption, they need to start at the affordable vehicle level. And they're doing that. In fact, the Skunk Works team is the team that's developing this mid-size pickup truck that's coming out in 2027. Speaking of the 2026-2027 dates, they're not just arbitrary. Ford is expecting that at that point, battery technology is going to be much more affordable than it is today. There's already been some advancements. In fact, the current generation Tesla Model 3 and the Gen 2 R1T and R1S come with an LFP battery. It's a lithium iron phosphate, and it's a little bit more affordable. It makes the cost of the vehicle a little bit less, and it also has pretty decent range. And so battery technology constantly changes year after year, and Ford expects that by 2026, 2027, that battery technology is going to be much more affordable to be able to make an F-150 Lightning successor that's not $100,000, but maybe $50,000, maybe $45,000, right? So they're slowly planning for this transition. It's just, as of right now, having a 3-row crossover probably isn't realistic because it's just not going to sell well in today's market. But this is by no means Ford stepping away from EVs. In fact, they currently have 3 manufacturing facilities either in production or soon to be operational, strictly focused on EVs and battery production. And so they're still full steam ahead. It's just, you know, the way that sometimes the headlines show things, they make it look as if EVs are going to be gone forever. And I just don't think that's the case. I do think it's going to be a much longer transition period than what people initially expected. The 2035 mandate from California to have EVs for like, what, 75-80% of your fleet, it's probably unrealistic because not only is the price of these vehicles too high, but the infrastructure is not there. It's going to take a lot longer. But inevitably, it's probably going to happen. EVs are probably going to take over the majority of ICE vehicles. But at the same time, it's not going to be without its hiccups. And I think we're starting to see some of that in today's market. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. What are your thoughts on Ford's announcement? I would really appreciate, you know, thoughtful comments, not just that EVs suck or that internal combustion engines suck, right? They both have a time and place in today's market. And I think it's an interesting world that we're living in during this transition period because it's kind of like no other time in history. I mean, maybe back when the car was first introduced, did we live through a period like this? But if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly videos. Also check me out on all the social media at Shwayze_. Till next time, everybody, hope you stay Shwayze, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.